Hi everyone, I'm JD from Willowbound Journals. Welcome back to my channel. So I'm picking up where I left off with this series, making some Daphne's Diary journals from start to finish. I thought I'd just put the camera on, and anytime that I work on them, you will come along for the ride and I'll show you how I do it, and I'll try and talk out my process in case that is helpful. So for this video, I'm just going to work on one of the journals. So I'll work on the more pinky red autumn themed one, and I just ripped off another page from the magazine because I pulled out, I think it was 11 pages for the green journal, and I had 10 for this red one. So I just wanted to even that up so they have the same amount of feature pages, and I thought it was fitting to pull off the very first page where it has a little spiel about autumn, because that worked well with the theme. And I knew that I wanted to use this page as my first page when you open the journal, because yeah, it just sets the tone of the journal and works well with the cover as well. So I'm just trimming that down to size, and then I'll go through the rest of the pages and I'll talk through how I fold them, like why I choose where I fold them, if I fold them horizontal or vertically, and how I decide where to place my cuts. So basically, for most of them, I want full-sized pages, so I just fold them almost in half. I could do them in half if I wanted and then cut them later on, but this way it just sizes them from the beginning, and then I will just trim off the top so that it fits nicely with a little bit of a gap between the top, side and bottom. I could have it so it's lined up perfectly to the edges, but this is just how I go with my process. I get lots of questions, why don't I use a paper trimmer? The answer is I don't have one, and I also don't need one because scissors do the job just fine. Yes, it takes a bit longer, but I don't mind the process. It's quite enjoyable. So yeah, this one I'm folding in half lengthways, because when I'm looking at the page, you can see that it's kind of segmented in half. So there's some writing on the left-hand side and the pictures on the right-hand side. So it just works really well that I can separate it in half like that. I'm not going to be cutting off something important like a picture. And I'm also looking at the other side though as well to make sure I'm not cutting off something important on the other side. And it just so happened that it worked well over there as well. Now I'm just deciding, where do I want to cut? I will cut off one of the pictures, and I wanted to keep the one at the bottom with the pretty soap and the lavender. So I cut off the top one of the lady making the soap. And so that's why as well with some of these pages I won't necessarily cut them all the same sizes, because the pictures and the layout of the magazine will tell me where to place my cut. So I don't want to cut right in the middle of a picture necessarily, or right in the middle of a word. I mean, sometimes I'm okay doing that, but if the page suits more of a cut, or it works better doing it separating a picture or separating words, then I will do that. Sometimes it's not always possible. I mean, sometimes you just need to cut straight through an image, and that's okay. It's all okay. We just work with what we've got, and it's a junk journal, you make it work. And I love that. I love that all the pages have different variety, different images, words, everything, blank space, decoration, it's all there. That's one of the things I love about junk journals, is that you don't just have plain blank pages throughout the journal, but every page is different and has a different look. So because there's two of these types of pages, I wanted to add a bit of variation. So one I fold lengthways, and one I fold almost all the way in half. So I just cut off a little bit there. So what I'm doing here is cutting off the page number and the little DD symbol. I don't necessarily like that. I mean, sometimes I don't mind keeping it there, but if I can, I will usually cut that off. And then this one, I'm just figuring out where to place my cut. It doesn't really matter because it's just a patterned page, so I could cut at the top or the bottom. And it's just trimming that off there. And again, this is like the most simple journal to make because we're just using the feature pages from the magazine, and most of them, yeah, we're just folding in half. Well, all of them we're folding in half pretty much, but most of them we're folding in half the big way so that they're full-size pages. And if you wanted, you could do that for all of them, and that would be even simpler and quicker to do. But yeah, I wanted to use the magazine, let it speak to me, and that's how I decide, do I want it to go lengthways or the other way? I'm not sure what the word is for the other way, lengthways versus widthways. So now I'm looking at some pages and I'm thinking about which page do I want to be my middle page. I always like that to be a bit more striking if possible. And this one worked well because it has the quote, "Enjoy the little things." And I thought that's a beautiful sentiment. It's a beautiful picture. It goes well with the theme, the autumn colours. So I thought, yeah, that one works well to be my middle page. And when you're cutting out a middle page or deciding on a middle page, what I'm thinking about as well is making sure I'm not going to be cutting off something where the binding is, because where you put the embroidery thread or whatever thread you use down the centre of the page, you'll be cutting off something. So I try not to, have a person's face right in the centre of the page, for example, or a word. So yeah, just cutting that down now. Sorry, what am I doing? Getting distracted. So I've found this page here, and because I can cut that lengthways, I do. It's nice and symmetrical, so that works out well. And again, this is one where I'm not necessarily measuring to fit the journal. I'm measuring based on the page design. So I don't want to cut in the middle of a chair. I'll cut so that I cut along the box where the box is. Alright, so I've got these pages now, and I usually start with the easier pages because I can easily figure out where I want to put my folds, and then I'll leave the harder pages where I might be cutting something off, or there's it just doesn't quite work, and I'll save those to last. And yeah, so these ones were a bit trickier because I just didn't know what I wanted to show off on the page. But yeah, just make it work. That's my motto, apparently, in this video. Sometimes, I don't even measure, as you can see here. Just trim off the top because you don't need them all exactly the same height and width. You could definitely do that if you wanted, but just showing you can eyeball it if you want as well. Just wing it. This is another way of cutting. So I fold the page directly in half, and then I just cut down the side. So it's all very, it's a very intuitive process, I guess. The pages just tell me how I'm going to fold it, where I'm going to cut, and what method I'm going to use. And it will change depending on the page or how I feel. Alright, and now I think this is the last page. So this was tricky because the middle image, I would be folding directly across that middle image. In hindsight, what I could have done is actually folded it shorter on one side. So this is a little tip. If you want to show the whole image, just fold it not in the middle, but fold it so that it's off center. I should have done that, but doesn't matter at all. It works either way. But yeah, just a little tip. So you'd have one side of the page shorter and the other side you could cut it to be the same, or you could just leave it long. But I think, I just wanted to, again, make this as simple as possible, so have everything lined up and matched even. So there we go. Now all my pages are cut, and I hope that was helpful. It's just sharing what I do and speaking out loud, I guess, about my process. And yeah, that's how I go. In the next video, I will arrange these pages, and I'll see you then. Bye, guys.